Hello learners, welcome to my YouTube channel N-TechXom. In this lesson, we will learn Scrum practices. Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel for more valuable videos. Once you complete this lesson, you should be able to describe a product backlog, explain what makes up a good user story, describe a sprint backlog, explain what time boxing and why it's important. Talk intelligently about extreme programming, describe code refactoring, pair programming, and continuous integrations. Describe what test-driven development is and explain the definitions of done. The product backlog is a prioritized list of requirements or features of the project. The product backlog is created and maintained by the product owner. The product backlog includes all features, requirements, enhancements, and fixes that makes up the work needed to be done for the product of the project. The product backlog is never completed. It evolves as the product and the environment in which it is used evolves. It continuously changes the reflect what the product needs to be in order to be appropriate, competitive, and useful. The development team contributes to the product owner by identifying non-functional items and risk items that needs to be developed during the course of the project, while the product owner determines the items to be included in the product backlog and their values. The development team is responsible for estimating the efforts required to complete each one. A product backlog item, often called a user story. The user story is a lightweight mechanism to quickly capture requirements. User story act is an agreement between the product owner and the development team regarding the features and requirements that need to be developed. User story helps shift the focus of writing about requirements to talking about them. A user story typically follows a simple template like this. As a type of user, I want some goal so that I can achieve some benefits or reason. For example, as a customer support representative, I am able to quickly source the FAQ database so that I can provide the best support services to my customers. A user story are typically written on index card and arranged on walls or tables to facilitate further planning and discussion. A user story card will be typically contain an item identifier name as description, its estimated value for the product owner perspective, the estimated efforts required from the team's perspective, any associated risk, dependencies, and acceptance tests required. The acronym INVEST is used to communicate the attribute of a good user story. I stand for independent. The user story must be independent for each other and as an individual unit deliverable. N stand for negotiable. The user story must be negotiable in terms of implementations. V stand for valuable. The user story must create some values for the end users or customers. E stand for estimable. The user story should be clear enough for the development team to estimate the amount of work required with a reasonable degree of accuracy. S stand for the user story must be small enough to be completed within a given time frame or a single sprint. You can do many user stories in a sprint, but a user story can never be done in more than one sprint. T stand for testable. The user story should be testable for acceptance and correctness criteria. Based on the dependencies and success criteria, product owner will accept the user story. The sprint backlog is a subset of the product backlog and contain the user stories which has been selected for the sprint. The sprint backlog emerged during sprint planning, and once agreement has been arrived at for what is going to be included in the sprint backlog, it does not change during sprint back planning meeting. Each of the user stories is disaggregated into individual tasks and estimated for durations by the development team. The development team also considers the risk, dependencies, and constraints associated with each of the user story. Tasks are tracked on a task board or Kanban board, which provide high visibility of the progress and status of the sprint. The sprint backlog is owned and maintained by the development team. In time boxing, if something cannot be completed in the time box period of time, it is deferred to the next period. In Scrum, time boxing is critical for continuous improvement, determining the team's velocity and improving collaborations. The time boxing is applied to all event and Scrum. For example, a sprint is time boxed at 2 to 4 weeks. Sprint planning is time boxed at 2 hours for each week of the sprint. The daily Scrum are time boxed that 15 minutes sprint and sprint reviewer or time boxed at the 1 hour of each week of the sprint, and sprint retrospective are time boxed at 45 minutes for each week of the sprint. Extreme programming, usually referred to as just XP, was developed in the 1990s. The main purpose is in developing XP who are to respond to the high cost of changing requirements and establish strong engineering practices in order to improve software quality. XP introduced many revolutionary concepts to software development that are now standard practices, many of which are actually used in Scrum, such as test-driven development. This is where the team writes the verifications test before developing the code. Continuous integrations. This is a development practices required developers to integrate code into a shared repository several times each day. Each check-in is then verified by an automatic build, allowing development team members to detect and resolve problems early. Integrations. An integration is a relatively short period of time during which the development team creates value for the customers. In Scrum, an iterations is called a sprint, and of course, user story, which we have talked about a lot. Code refactoring was also developed as part of XP. This is the process of restructuring existing computer code without changing its external behavior. Code refactoring is used to improve the non-functional attribute to the software. Refactoring is used to eliminate what we call technical debt, which is created by using code that's easy to implement in short runs. Instead of applying the best overall solution, if technical debt is not addressed routinely through refactoring, it becomes very expensive to address later. A bug count grows, schedules get drilled, and customers experience death by thousands cuts caused by conflict depths. Code refactoring also simplify code, making future coding on the project much easier. Pair programming, also developed this part of XP, is a technique in which two programmers work together at one workstation. So one of them called the driver actually write the code while the other one, the navigator, review each line of the code as it's typed. And then the two programmers switch their roles frequently. In pair programming, there is an element of constant reflections, as in real time reviewing and the reductions of noise and distractions. The idea behind pair programming is that the two heads are better than one, and therefore two heads will usually produce higher quality softwares. Software configurations management is the task of tracking and control changes to the software. It is used to bring control to the software development process, and this result is higher quality products. This is accomplished by identifying the configurations of the software and then implement a change control process so that changes can be tracked and their implementations monitored. So something went wrong, software configurations management can determine what was wrong, what was changed, and who changed it, and then implement an intelligent resolutions. The test-driven development is another innovation that came from XP. It is an evolutionary approach to software development where the software development first write the test, then write the code that satisfies the condition of the test. Here we can see how test-driven development flows. A test is written and then the code is developed and then test is run. If the code passes the test, a new test is written and then the process repeat. But if the code fails, the test changes are made to the code and then the test is run again. Changes are made to the code until the code passes. The acceptance test driven development is similar, but it's different in the sense that it's used to define a user story acceptance criteria before the development of the user story began, and then after the user story has been developed. The acceptance test in the sprint review are used to demonstrate that the user story was properly developed. The artifact definitions of done is a checklist of things that have to be verified before an item is marked done. A definitions of done can be applied to a user story, a sprint, a release, or even a project. The Scrum team collaboratively develops and agrees of all of the stipulations of the definitions. This is an example of definition of done where the build is release ready and available for download. Check. Check documentation is complete. Check testing is complete. Check the source code is committed to the server. Check code has been reviewed and the product owner has given approval. It is expected that the definitions of done will evolve as the Scrum team mature. We covered lot in this lesson. We covered product backlog and sprint backlog. We explained user stories and how to invest in user story. We have learned importance of time boxing and extreme programming and its practices. And we have learned and review the definitions of done.
Hello learners, please like and subscribe my YouTube channel so I can prepare some more valuable videos for you. Thank you.